I gotta say, um, I sit down here a lot and I say things in the heat of the moment, and I just usually go by things that are upon, first look for me. And, Sunday, that was basically what I did again because, I was pretty deflated after the loss. But after thinking it over, I've come up with a couple of things about Sunday's game that say that, you know what, it might not be all that bad for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's just a demoralizing loss because of what happened on the field, but it's not like it was a repeat of last year. So let's get on to this video. Good Tuesday morning, everybody. I am Mac, back with another video. As always, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, follow on Instagram. Link is down in the box below. So, obviously, yeah, Sunday was a pretty tough pill to swallow, and it kickstarted, our toughest stretch of the season, 3 games in 10 days that ends with Christmas Day against Kansas City. However, I will begin by saying this, and just let me explain what I mean when I say it, okay? In my opinion, during this 3 game stretch that the Steelers have, where we play all teams that are above 500 and all teams that are playoff contenders at the very least, I will say we have to win at least 2 of those, in my opinion. I'll be happy with taking 2 out of 3. Now, you might be thinking, well, the Steelers already lost on Sunday, so they can't lose another game during the stretch to satisfy you. That's true. Okay? That's true. We already lost. So, in my opinion, we cannot lose another game during the stretch. But I will say this. If there is one game during this stretch that I would choose the Steelers to lose if I had to go to that, if there's one game that I had to pick the Steelers to lose during this stretch, it would be the Philly game. And I say Philly because for as much as I want to get a W over them in Philadelphia, the fact of the matter is that the Eagles are out of conference, and losing to them has no bearing on our seeding when it comes to the AFC. It doesn't affect our conference record. It just affects our overall record, you know? So, and that's what happened on Sunday. We're 10-4. Our conference record didn't change, and it's against a team that we play every election year, basically. So that's why I say that the Eagles are the team that I would choose the Steelers to lose this game. We have to shift our focus to Baltimore and Kansas City coming up. Those, in my opinion, are the 2 more important games during the stretch. Not saying the Eagle game wasn't important, because it was, but out of those 3, I think it's the least important of them. Okay? Because think about it like this. We play the Ravens on Saturday, and to me, that is the most important game during this stretch, because this game can essentially decide who wins the AFC North. All right? Even if we don't win Saturday, which I would be pretty upset if we lost Saturday, but even if we don't win, we would have to win our final 2 games and we can still win the division. But like I alluded to me, we can't lose Saturday. And then obviously the Chiefs game on Christmas Day. Obviously, that may be the hardest game, but I really don't think Kansas City is as good as what people make them out to be. They're not as dominant as they were in the past couple of seasons. So, still, it's an important game because obviously it's a conference game. But any way you look at it, any way that you chop down the next 2 games in rankings of importance, I think we can all agree that Sunday was the least important of the 3. And looking back on it, when the Steelers did punt on that 4th and 7 on Saturday, when they were down by 14 points and we didn't have a chance to touch the ball for the rest of the game. I said in my post game that the team gave up. I said that the team just mailed in the game or whatever. And like I said, I say a lot of things in the heat of the moment. That's a bad habit of mine. But looking back on it now, maybe Tomlin decided to punt for a more deeper reason than you might think. Okay? And what I mean by that is that maybe he acknowledged that the game against Philly didn't have as much importance to us than it did against the Ravens or Chiefs. So maybe Tomlin decided to punt on fourth down on that game in four down territory towards midfield and maybe that was just his way of saying, you know what, Philly, here, you guys can go ahead and take this game. We got bigger fish to fry. Not that I condone it, but maybe that's what Tomlin's mindset was. He was like, he was probably like, okay, Eagles, you can go ahead and take this game. You win. We want to shift our focus to Baltimore and Kansas City. Now, who knows what really was the mindset on that fourth down right there? Maybe who knows what his mindset was with punting right there? I don't know. But maybe that was just his way of saying that we're focusing on Baltimore and Kansas City and that, Philly can go ahead and win the game. Okay. But if that was the case, then the Steelers still need some improvements to go with, and they definitely need things to touch up on if they're going to make that true because obviously we got headlines going into the game against Baltimore, and I think the number one thing that everyone's talking about is TJ Watt's health, and I didn't get a full prognosis on it until Monday because I didn't get any kind of updates after the game. And then Monday morning, I saw the prognosis of it. And the Steelers dodged a massive bullet right there with TJ Watt. At first glance, I thought it was an Achilles injury and he was out for the rest of the season. But the prognosis said that it's a low ankle sprain. And typically in a low ankle sprain, you're looking at missing 1 to 3 weeks. So with TJ, the thing with that is that, sure, he might not play against the Ravens, but he could come back in the nick of time, so to speak, for us. And yes, I know the Steelers are 1-10 all time without TJ, and the defense has been historically bad without TJ. But, I'd rather him be hurt now than week 18 like he did last year against the Ravens, and he had to miss the playoff game against Buffalo. So there you go right there with TJ. It sucks that he's hurt. It sucks that, our defense, our team's going to take a big hit against the Ravens on Saturday. But think of it like this. He could be back in the nick of time. I don't expect him to play Saturday. Same thing with George Pickens. I've heard that Pickens is making progress and that he's now listed as questionable for this game against the Ravens, and I'll get more of that in my preview for the Ravens. But if you ask me, I'm leaning towards Pickens not playing this game either. So we're definitely going to be down our two best players on our two best players on the team. Okay, but come playoff time, I'd rather these two be back in the nick of time come playoff time. And that's, that's a good sign for us. It really is. Because like I said, if TJ does come back for the playoffs and he is ready, then that can really give us a momentum swing. And the same thing with George Pickens. Like, I expect TJ to be back probably by week 18. I expect George Pickens probably to be back by 17 or 18. Because with Pickens, he's expected to miss at least 3 weeks. And week 17 will have been the third week. So I expect him to be back as early as week 17. And that can definitely build up some momentum. And as far as, we know how the defense is without TJ, but we know what this offense is now without George Pickens. And, you can call Pickens whatever you want. You can call him a diva, you can call him a crybaby, you can call him a selfish player, call him a me first player, whatever you want to call him. And if you know me, I would probably agree with you. But there's one thing that you can't deny about Pickens. George Pickens is the best player on this offense, and Russell Wilson needs him badly. Because if we're going to sit down here and rely on Russell Wilson to be the engine of this team, it's plausible, but it's really hard to do when he doesn't have his best target. The Steelers go from third in total yards per game with Russell Wilson and George Pickens to dead last in yards per game without George Pickens and when Russ is just on the field. So we need George Pickens, whether you think that he's immature or not, on this offense, because we're not getting much help from our running game. Our running game is one of the worst in the league this year. And, that leads me into saying with Najee Harris is that, sorry, buddy, it's just not going to work out. It hasn't worked out. I would not pick up your fifth year, and I would not pick up that option in the off season, especially after that fumble. So sorry, Najee, it didn't work out. Good luck elsewhere. But it's not just him. I mean, sure, Jaylen Warren has that burst ability, and he does have, that physicality with him in the run game. But overall, we're not getting the run game that we really need. And plus, the O-line is not helping with the blocking very much either. So that's been a big letdown with the offense. And then as far as the receivers go, like I said, Pickens is the best player on this offense. But then you got Mike Williams and CA3, who are basically the opposite of one another. Mike Williams, he's a big receiver and he's really good with contested catches, but he doesn't really run any crisp routes or any kind of decent routes or anything, because when it's off cover, defenses are playing off coverage with him because they know that when there's no safety help there, and they also know that in that situation, Russ doesn't have any kind of leverage to where, he can chuck it up because Mike Williams is not running that type of route. They're playing him very off. They're playing him very tight right there, So that's the deal with Mike Williams, and that's why he hasn't been getting targeted as much. And then you got CA3, who, like I said, is the opposite of Mike Williams. CA3 runs pretty good routes, and he has the speed with them for sure. But the problem with CA3 is that he's smaller than Mike Williams is, and he doesn't, that eliminates his ability to make a play with the one-on-one contested catches. So there you go right there. And then other than that, who else do we really have at receiver at this point? Pat Freiermuth, I mean, using him across the middle field is good, but how often can you rely on that? Then you got guys like Van Jefferson and Scotty Miller and Sporanic even. Our wide receiver core is very thin without George Pickens, and it's just very depleted, and that's why this offense is pretty tough to watch when George Pickens isn't in the game. So I think one of the keys for us is that we got to get that playmaker out in space, and we got to rely, and we have to, Russ needs to go out there and he needs to find guys in space, like I said, like CA3, like Jaylen Warren, like CA3, if I said that already. And while I'm not saying that drag routes and screens are the only way possible to go about without George Pickens, you got to be able to win those space battles right there. You know what I mean? So definitely it just doesn't look good for us right now, barring the injuries and barring what happened and barring uncertain timetables for right now. But the Steelers right now definitely have room for improvement. and we definitely can get healthier at the right time. We just need these things to fall into play, and we need bounces to happen that can propel us to getting that momentum back, because I believe this team can win a playoff game. I do. I still believe we can win a playoff game. Okay? I'm not sitting down here and being like, this team has to go to the Super Bowl. This team has to win our 7th Super Bowl. I'm not saying that. I don't think any Steeler fan expects this team to win the Super Bowl this year. But this team is definitely talented enough to win a playoff game. That's what I want right now. You think that I don't get annoyed and that I'm not sick and tired of people saying, "Well, the Steelers haven't won a playoff game in 8 years. The Steelers are going to be one and done again. The Steelers are frauds." I'm sick and tired of hearing that. I just want a playoff win right now. That's what I want. So, we'll see how it goes, but it does look a little bit it is better than what you think it is for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. Anyway, those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'm Mac, checking on out for the day. Have a good one, everybody.